and welcome to today's video. It took me a while to get rolling on this, as you can, if you're keeping track at all, it's a little bit late again. Now, I was going to work on the subject of forgiveness, and the further I dug into it, the bigger it became. It wasn't just a simple, you must forgive, okie dokie, and it's done. It just doesn't work that way. Now, this week was a fairly busy one. We had about 8 to 10 inches of snow. It was minus 24-ish, very cold. Spent some time in the house, in the Homestead house, making plans for our winter renovations. So all our shelf building will be below that.
Well, yeah. Oh.
Starting to pull out some of the big sink and the toilet that was in the pantry room.
Always one way to get something out. Just by brute force.
And yeah, I took out the dishwasher because we never ever used it in our almost, our 2.5 years of being here.
Could you get me...
We've always just washed and dried the dishes. There's just the 2 or 3 of us, and so there's no waiting for a full load. By then all your dishes are gone. And what we needed more so in our house was more space, because it's a teeny tiny kitchen and we just needed more shelf space. So removed that for now. I decided to come over to my favorite place. This is the inside of the chalet, looking out onto the gardens and the beautiful snow, and talk about forgiveness, because this is something that I've been wrestling with for a very long time. One of the things that I have come to realize is it does no good to, well, first you have to decide, what is forgiveness? What is it? Because its definition has changed over time. It began as forgiving, let's say, a debt, a financial debt, way back in the way past. Then it became a thing in religion, in Christianity. It took on a huge, you must forgive. If you don't forgive, you're going to hell, because, if you don't forgive, God won't forgive you. And so then forgiveness got imbued with all sorts of heaviness and pressure. And were you forgiving prematurely? Were you even forgiving? Were you just shoveling it under a rug and not dealing with things, pretending like you forgave, but you really, really didn't, and that you were around people that have harmed you and you've been seething on the inside, and just, did you really forgive? And what does that mean? And I'm trying to veer as far away from the biblical forgiveness as I can, because, yeah, fraught with a whole lot of meaning that doesn't help at all, except add more difficulty and harm, I think, to the people who have been harmed, as opposed to the abusers, the perpetrators. They get to lean on the verses of the Bible, and they will toss it at you. You must forgive, because then God won't forgive you, and on it goes. Even though there's no repentance on their side, you're still told you need to forgive. And the more I was thinking about it, from what I grew up with in the church, or the evangelical church, I'm trying to talk about Jesus's forgiveness and God's forgiveness. And even the Bible itself, I gather, says there are some sins God won't forgive. So not everything can be forgiven. Word on the street is that sin against the Holy Spirit was an unforgivable sin, whatever that means. So there is things that cannot be forgiven. Jesus when he was on the cross, forgave people without them even asking, right? So, but then you're taught growing in the church is you must repent, you must get down on your knees, you must beg for forgiveness, you must, if you're in, let's say, the Catholic Church, you have to confess to a priest, you have to do these things. There are all sorts of things you must do before you can be forgiven. But then Jesus did it without people asking. So do people have to talk to you? Do people have to apologize? Or do you have to forgive people that have harmed you just because otherwise you go to hell? I just think it's more complicated than the very blithe you must forgive because she was your mother. You must forgive because it's your parents, or it's your sister, or it's your husband, or it's your kids, or it's must you? So these are the things I'm wrestling with. I think one of the problems with forgiveness is the word itself, because the word just has so many different meanings that it almost becomes meaningless. I'm leaning towards the letting go, not saying it's okay or I forgive, let's be buddies. None of that. It is learning to let go, and those things take time. You cannot just forgive because you must and then it's a done deal. I think it's a work in progress. It almost comes in waves that you can feel like you've forgiven, something else comes along and it comes right back up, and you have to once again work on forgiving and whatnot, if that's what you feel. Some synonyms for forgiveness is, and I wrote them down so I'd remember, is absolution, compassion, giving them grace. Now, when I was studying the book on forgiveness, the subject of forgiveness, I ordered up a couple of Kindle books on forgiveness. One was by Desmond Tutu. Because some things are harder than others, correct? Small slights, little things, yeah, you can let it go. With let's say your spouse, you each kind of do stuff that can hurt the other. And it's up to you to apologize, repair, and do all the steps of forgiveness. That is absolutely understandable and explainable. With your children, your little children, as they're learning and growing, are going to do things that hurt, and going to do things like not obey, let's say, or do things to harm who knows what. And you have to work through these things and work through forgiveness and teaching them how to do the forgiving and the repairing and apologizing, how to do it in a healthy manner to all parties concerned. Oh, back to biblical. It is said, and anytime I watch a post about it, Bible verses always come up, right? And there's the one that says, Jesus said to forgive 70 times 7. Now, using my math genius, that is 490 times. So there is a finite number. And what if the persons that you were, I don't know the correct word, let's say a child to a parent, let's say, or under the power of somebody, let's say they have harmed you over and over and over past 490 times, because in some homes and some lives, these things happen on a daily. So that would be what, a year and a half of time before the you must forgives runs out of its power, because then it's a continuing thing and a deliberate thing, and you're even blessed by God not to be forgiving if you go by those verses, because he did give an actual number as opposed to he was just meaning endlessly. See, I'm studying on these things. I'm trying to figure it out and trying to work away from the biblical end of things, because too much. Then again, speaking of biblical, I recently saw some videos by Dr. Laura Schlesinger. You thought that she had passed away. You had thought from 30 years ago that she'd gone away. She's back. And she was speaking about forgiveness and how to deal with your, let's say, family and such. And she's of the mind that just because it is your family doesn't mean that you have to be more forgiving than you would with anybody else. And her thing is the 4 R's have to be met with forgiveness. You don't just give out cheap grace and then there's no responsibility, no accountability. There are certain things that have to be in place before true forgiveness can be done on the part of the person who has been, let's say, harmed. Now, one of the R's is responsibility. You have to take responsibility for what you have done. The person that has harmed you has to take responsibility for it. Actually, I'm going to turn this into 2 videos because this is going to get way too long. This one's going to talk about people who are trying to make things right, trying to fix the errors that they have done. Let's say you have harmed somebody, you've harmed your children, you have harmed your spouse, you have harmed somebody. How to go about apologizing and fixing the situation and getting back into a decent relationship with those you have harmed. This is only with people who actually accept it, who actually feel sorry for what they have done. These people have to show responsibility. They have to be able to name what they did, and not make excuses, not blame it. Well, I was just doing the best that I could with what I knew. No, none of that works. I was just in a bad mood, your father. Not that. I did this thing. It was wrong. This is what it did to you. I could see that. Take responsibility for what's been done. Accept the consequences. Now the consequences might mean that they don't forgive you, that what you have done is just too much. Let's say you cheated on your spouse. Let's say you are now sorry. Let's say you want to keep your marriage, that you explain and you take responsibility. You don't blame the wife for whatever you've decided. Let's say she chooses to leave you anyway. Let's say she decides that was a bridge too far. Well, you got to accept that consequence too, because you did the act. This is the consequence. All you can do is do your best to admit to what you've done without excuse. But they do have the option to not forgive either. And forgiveness doesn't mean taking you all back. Now, the second R is remorse. That, are you seeing that they feel bad? Are you seeing that they truly feel bad? They see what they've done. They just feel horrified at what they've done. They feel terrible. If you've done the thing, that you understand that what you've done was not cool, was just terrible, and you feel horrible inside, a true remorse, not that I got caught, so I'm so sorry. Well, that's not sorry at all. You got caught. And if you didn't get caught, that you would continue on the behavior, whatever it was, indefinitely, because there's no true remorse or repentance in there. So that's the second R. Let me turn my page. I'm keeping notes because there was a lot as I was studying. Repair. The third R is repair for Dr. Laura Sessinger. Making amends where you can for the damage that you did. Specific actions to fix what you've done. Don't just sit there, I'm sorry, and then we're going to just start fresh, no matter what the damage that was done. I'll give you an example. Oh yeah, third husband, the one who was the hobosexual. Anyway, he had called me a few years after the split and the divorce was over and all the dust had settled. I was walking to work and there was this weird number, a message on my phone from an unknown number. It said, I am so sorry for what I've done. I owe you so much. I am just so sorry. Something like that. So I said, who are you? You could be one of several people. And so it was the ex. And he was sorry. And he wanted to make amends. And on he went. It was just a big long spiel. He wanted to get together. He wanted to have lunch. He needed to do it face to face. And on it went. He realized that he had lost me at least $100,000 because of selling our sound production gear for crack cocaine back when we were together. And then I had to pay that because it was all on credit. Oh, he owed me a lot. He was going to pay me back. He was going to give me whatever, little bits at a time. Never happened. It's been years and years and it never happened. It was just all words. There was no amends made. And it was, I mean, talk is great. Action is what you watch. So that was just my one little example on making amends. And if a part of, I think this is what I think, because a lot of what was happening in my world was a smear campaign against me. Smearing me to various relatives, smearing me to my daughter, trying to smear me to my son. This was my sister. Smear, 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 smear. I think that part of making amends, if it ever came to an apology and a trying to repair, a part of making the amends, I think, the repair needs to be as loud as what the offense was. If you went all over the universe smearing and carrying on and being just terrible, well, then you had better go all around the universe apologizing just as loudly, telling the truth just as loudly as when you were smearing. That's how I feel personally. A part of forgiveness also rests on the intention behind the act that was done. I mean, there's lots of oopsies. I mean, in a marriage, let's say, your mouth might run, you're not thinking, or nobody's trying to harm the other. You just do something inadvertently, and well, that's an easy thing to work through and forgive, right? However, let's say there was intent behind the malice. Let's say it was a deliberate act to harm. Let's say it was planned out and things were done, calls were made, very deliberate things. It was not an accident to try to get, let's say, your life ruined. That's a little different thing to forgive, because the intent was malice. The intent was to harm. The intent was to hurt. The story on this one for me is, I have a sister. She was my closest friend. She has a counseling degree. She decided when my life was going well with my husband that she wanted me to be brought back down to where I was this living a terrible life and struggling and just not having anybody around to help me except for her and maybe one other. She deliberately went and found my new sister-in-law's phone number, called her up, and in her little, according to my sister-in-law, very sweet voice, I just had to tell you, I just feel terrible to tell you that your brother made the biggest mistake of his life in marrying my sister, and on she went. A few days later, she called my husband, told him the same thing. The terrible, hated to tell him what a terrible person I was and decision he made in marrying me. And then she reached my daughter, and my daughter kind of fed into it a whole lot more than my husband and sister-in-law did. Actually, husband and sister-in-law didn't feed into it at all. My daughter did. She tried it with my son. My son, because he's got so many problems in his life, if you've seen anything that I have posted, he didn't have the mental bandwidth to deal with what his aunt was trying to pull. So he just kind of zoned out, thankfully. And then she went with social services to try to have our Jasmine removed from us. These things were deliberate acts, in some ways also using her credentials to say what a terrible person I am, or whatever. So then you sit back and going, what would it take to forgive this? Because it's deliberate, it's malignant. Well, right now it's kind of moot right now because she's not asked. And I'll discuss how to handle, let's say, forgiving somebody when they don't admit to it, when they don't accept responsibility, when they think they were right in what they did to harm you. That's a different kettle of fish as far as I'm concerned. I'm focusing on what to do if you're trying to repair the relationship and they're sincerely trying to get back into a decent relationship with you. Oh my gosh, I can't read my notes. I got notes. I got no glasses on. I cannot read them. This is just, whoa. And just like magic, I found my glasses. Do I look a little smarter? These are from Amazon. They're like 20 bucks for 5 little reading glasses. Now, one of the issues folks have with not being forgiven, or that's tossed at you, is you're not allowed to be mad. You're not allowed to be upset, because it's not good for you to be angry. It's not good for you to be bitter. It's not good for. They even start this immediately after the offense. Like, you have to immediately get over it. It doesn't work like that in real life. And there is a difference, as far as I'm concerned, with being angry, which is justified, and it helps protect you from further harm. It helps you think up boundaries to keep you from getting further harmed. That righteous anger and bitterness. Bitterness is just a thing that's that poison that you swallow and you're thinking you're going to hurt the other. I was reading about Maya Angelou, and she said, bitterness is like cancer. It eats upon the host, but anger is like fire. It burns it all clean. Those who are selfish and indifferent to the pain and actions towards other people are champions of forgiveness, premature forgiveness especially. It's so much more convenient to deal with repressed, simmering resentment than to face anger, right? Being around somebody who's bitter is a lot easier than having somebody that you did a terrible thing, right? I think that the advice to forgive and forget and take the high road can sometimes cause more harm than good, but is so much more convenient for everybody else, not just for the one who was harmed and was left with an injury that was never redressed and emotions that were never processed. Way to go, Maya. And forgiveness has less to do with the perpetrators and more to do with yourself. They don't even have to know you're working through this. You don't have to walk up to them and go, I forgive you. Because chances are they'll go, I did nothing wrong. I got nothing to forgive, right? And then you feel like, well, I'm a chump. So the work towards letting go, I'm going to run with letting go, because forgiveness, you know my thoughts. The letting go is something you work towards, and it takes time and it takes space. Because if you're in the situation where it's happening over and over and it's just never ending, how do you forgive something that's a daily thing, a weekly thing? It's a constant, it never ends. So you have to forgive every day. Really? That doesn't work either. You don't have to have compassion and empathy for the other person. If you want to go through some sort of academic learning about their life, fine. What good does it do me that they harmed me because they were harmed? So maybe y'all should have just dealt with your shit before raining it down on me. Right? I can understand that my mother had a terrible mother. I can understand that her mother was abusive. Her mother physically, always financially, right? Grandma taking mom's monies when she was working. Grandma threatening with having her removed from the will, even though grandma had not a pot to piss in. But they were held in this fear, and mom can talk about it even the last time I saw her, and she was just held to the same worry and fear than that she'd be written out of this will of nothing, because it represents what your mother thought about you. And that this all happened to her, and then she rained that same down on me. I can have compassion or not. That's irrelevant. I have to deal with what was done to me. You don't have to let them back into your life. You don't have to acknowledge anything. As my dad did to me as I walked up to the house to see my little sister, I can ignore them. I can act like they didn't exist. This shunning when they're in your presence is a weird experience. 100% of the compassion and forgiveness has to be directed at yourself. I was talking to Owen about this morning, about trying to get a video going on compassion, on forgiveness and what it might even mean. And he said, the biggest part is to forgive yourself. For you've given them so much space in your head and in your thinking that, rent-free in your head. They have taken your joy. They haven't taken anything. You have given them your joy. You have given them all the rumination and thinking and just not letting it go for years and years and years. And you've wanted, and I'm talking you, me, and I've wanted to find out the whys and the wherefores with the no apologies and the no accepting accountabilities. It just makes more sense to let time pass, to learn to care less, to get them out of my head where they are now squatting because I let them squat. It's okay to acknowledge what happened, the atrocities that happened, all the events. It's okay to let go of the protective function of anger so that you can heal and so you can move on, and often without them. Maybe it's more healthy and more healing to in time reach the state of indifference, where months can go by, they don't even cross your mind. And it's funny because with exes and whatnots, when it was so fresh and horrible, and it was a daily, minute by minute thinking, to where they barely cross your mind ever, that you can scrape all your memories of them into just a teeny tiny little pile, and there's just not much there. They have no power. You feel nothing inside. No tears come up. There's just nothing. You can tell your stories like a story now without tearing up or just getting angry. I think it's a healthy place to reach, a place of indifference rather than forgiveness. That's where I'm heading to. And I saw a little phrase at the end of the day. I'm not sure if I took a picture of it, but it said, I only have the capacity to focus on my own recovery. If they want forgiveness, they can ask God and keep me out of it. They can work their own with God. I'm just moving on over here in healing and wellness and building my good life with people who love me and are healthy at this, as I'm learning to get healthier at this. So next, I'll continue on my second video regarding folks who don't accept they've done anything. They deny it. It's all your fault. All that kind of stuff. It's a different kettle of fish. This one was if somebody actually is seeking forgiveness, or that you're seeking forgiveness, and what you need or should do if you wish to. And so this is Annette on a bad hair day because I was outside and I had 2 kids, so I kept it on in my brilliant glasses. Hoping you keep warm. It's going to get beautiful outside in the coming weeks. I'm Annette from Carpe, Omnia After 60, and I'll see you in a few days. Take care.